So let's play around with the writeConcern. And for that, I'll go back to my persons. There we already have a couple of persons in the database, of course, and all these writes succeeded. And they normally will, of course. Now let's insert a new person with insert one, and the writeConcern can also be set on all other write operations, like insert many. I will use insert one here with a name of Chrissy, age 41. And now I specify a second argument again. Where we previously set ordered, I will now set my writeConcern. I do this by setting the writeConcern, named like this. The casing is important. So the writeConcern key, I set it to a value, which again is a document, which has the shape you saw on the slides. W1 is the default. It simply means I need to be sure that the server acknowledged this. You can set this to 0. If you do this, you get back acknowledged false, but if I find everything, you see that Chrissy was inserted. So you get back a different result, also without an object ID, because it can't give you one. The server hasn't really registered this write yet. You just send the request and you immediately return. You don't wait for a response of this request, so to say. So the storage engine had no chance to store it in memory and generate an object ID. And therefore, you get back acknowledged false, because you sent the request, you don't even know if it reached the server. This is of course super fast, because you don't have to wait for any response here, for any ID generation, but obviously it tells you nothing about whether this succeeded or not. Could still be a valid option for data where it's okay for you, if some data does not end up in a database. So if you log some value every second about an application, and you don't care if a couple of seconds get lost, you could do that. So that is W0. The default with Alex, who's 36, the default is W1, of course. This gives you the output you saw before, acknowledged true and the inserted ID. Now let's go for Michael. And let's play around with the journal. The journal can be set to true. The default is undefined or false. So if I set it to false, I have the same result as before. Now, if I change it to Michaela, and we set the journal to true now, the output for us does not change. And it also was super fast here, because everything runs locally, and it's not like the journaling will take for hours. But it will have been a little bit slower, because the entry will have been added to the journal, and we waited for that journal editing to finish here. So here we have higher security, because we can also be sure that it ended up in this to-do list of the storage engine, which will eventually lead to the writes happen to the database files. So now we got this. Now let me add another person, Aliyah, 22. And let me also add a third option, W timeout. If I add this like this, it succeeded. Now, if I repeat it with a very small value, it also succeeded, because this is super fast here. But it is an option which you can set in case you got a shaky connection, or speed really matters and your connection is generally good, but you can't rule out that once in a year it's kind of shaky, and you then rather have that write fail. And you recognize this in your client application, of course, because you'll get back an error here too. So you'll have that write fail, and therefore you can try again later, but you don't wait unnecessarily long. So this can absolutely be something you are fine with.